This presentation looks at behavior, specifically at the FBA and BIP process. So a learner is exhibiting problem behavior in the moment. You've already looked, and there's nothing to tell you what to do when you start to see this behavior. So you want to do 3 basic things. You want to block. So block access to all putative reinforcers, meaning that you're blocking student access to things that may potentially be reinforcing this behavior. So while they're engaging in whatever this behavior is, you're blocking access to their preferred items. You want to redirect them if possible. Get the learner interested in a more appropriate activity, present something else, change the subject, etc. And you also want to try to ignore the behavior as much as possible. So remain neutral, continue sort of business as usual. You're going to keep going. Likely a lot's going to be going on in the moment. And so, just making sure that you're pretending like the behavior is not even occurring. And then you want to make sure that you're prepared to talk to your behavior analyst about what you're seeing. Your behavior analyst will determine social significance and priority, complete an FBA, develop a behavior intervention plan, and train the team on the behavior intervention plan. So the first step of that is determining social significance and priority. The behavior analyst is going to ask, does the behavior impede learning or impact quality of life in some capacity? They're also going to ask, are there other behaviors being targeted for increase or decrease that will impact this behavior? So perhaps this behavior is occurring because there's a plan in place right now to address another behavior, and it's likely that you're going to see this for a little bit, and then it's kind of going to go away. So all of these things are going to be things that your behavior analyst is going to talk with the team about. Then they're going to run a functional behavior assessment, which is a systematic method of assessment for obtaining information about the purposes or functions a problem behavior serves for a person. The results are used to guide the design of an intervention for decreasing the problem behavior and increasing appropriate behavior. Components of a functional behavior assessment are interviews with staff about behavior, where your behavior analyst will likely ask things like, when does it happen? What happens before? What happens after? There'll be direct observations of the behavior occurring, where your behavior analyst will come and observe the student when the behavior is most often occurring or able to be seen. And then they also may manipulate the environment. So they may change the antecedents or consequences surrounding the behavior to kind of see what happens. From there, they'll write a behavior intervention plan. A BIP is written for students who engage in behavior that is dangerous or disruptive. It's written by a behavior analyst in conjunction with the classroom staff. And a quick BIP should be in the learner's notebook for reference during the day. It's a summary of the behavior intervention plan. Some components of the BIP include what the problem behavior is, how often it's occurring, where and when it's occurring, and what the function of the behavior is. Your quick BIP will then include the behavior definition, so again, what the behavior is. The definitions should be easily understood, and they should be measurable, and the team will likely contribute to developing these behavioral definitions. So your behavior analyst might ask you, what does hitting look like? Is it with an open fist or a closed fist? Does a student raise their arm above their shoulder before they hit, or do they hit under the hip level? And so they might ask you all of these questions in determining a definition of what hitting looks like for this student. It's also going to list proactive strategies. So these are strategies that should be in place all day long, and they will help reduce the need for the behavior. These proactive strategies are directly tied to the function of the behavior. And another word for some of these things would be antecedent interventions. So if a student screams at the top of his or her lungs when they get to a point where they really need a break from their work, then some antecedent interventions might include giving them more frequent breaks or not asking for so much work before a break is given to the student. In terms of reactive strategies, these are strategies to implement after the behavior occurs. So you've done all of these proactive strategies. You really try to avoid the behavior, but it occurs anyways. And so the reactive strategies are the things that you do once the behavior starts occurring. They're directly related to the function of the behavior, and we also call these consequence interventions. So for example, staff inform the behavior analyst that Hannah throws her fruit cup at lunch every day. She has hit another student before with the fruit cup, and she put a hole in the wall of the classroom with the fruit cup. The behavior analyst determines this behavior is socially significant and a priority because of safety, so she decides to run an FBA and create a BIP. Step 1, the behavior analyst interviews staff and gets the following answers. When does Hannah throw the fruit cup? Staff say every day at lunchtime. What happens right before? We hand her the cup. What happens after? We pick it up, open it, and give it back to her. Step 2. Behavior analyst observes the following for 4 days straight. Hannah's presented with her fruit cup during lunch. Then Hannah launches the cup across the room and screams, "Too hard to open!" Staff then go and retrieve the cup, say, "I can open it for you," open the cup, and give it to Hannah. So the behavior analyst sees these 3 things happening every single day for 4 straight days. The behavior analyst then writes a plan. So the behavior is throwing the fruit cup, defined as picking up and releasing the fruit cup above shoulder level. The proactive strategies include telling Hannah prior to receiving the fruit cup, "You can ask for help opening." Staff should not release grip on the fruit cup until Hannah requests help opening. Staff should honor any requests, motor or vocal, to open the fruit cup. Staff should arrange other students so they are not in the lane of a possibly thrown fruit cup. So staff have done all of these things, but then Hannah still throws the fruit cup. What are they going to do? The reactive strategies include ignoring the throw by not going to pick up the fruit cup and not offering to help Hannah open it. The fruit cup should remain where it is thrown until lunch is over. Staff should discreetly pick up the fruit cup and put it back in Hannah's lunchbox after lunch. So that might be an example of some proactive or reactive strategies. Some things to remember. Any behavior without a plan. If you happen to see a behavior that does not have a plan, react neutrally based on your hypothesis of the function. Talk to your instructional leader or behavior analyst at the end of the day. If a plan does exist, follow it. Team meetings are a good time to make changes or suggestions, not while the behavior is occurring. So what we never want to see is one person decide, I'm not going to follow these reactive strategies, I'm going to try my own. So what happens then is it just makes it a lot more complicated for the student. So if you have some ideas of what might work better, bring those up in a team meeting to your behavior analyst or your instructional leader. And finally, you want to make sure that you're familiarizing yourself with the plan before you need to implement the plan. In the middle of a student engaging in disruptive or dangerous behavior is not the time to say, "Ooh, I should probably read that plan now." More than likely, that's not going to be the ideal time, and so you're going to want to already have all that information. A great place to start if you know that you're going to start working with students soon is to start by looking at their behavior intervention plans. What do you do proactively and what do you do reactively?